great to see everybody. Hello, good morning, good day. My name is Dave Shunk. I'm President and CEO of Volunteers of America. We are a faith-based nonprofit, and we serve over 100,000 Coloradoans every year statewide. And we do that by providing housing, nutrition, and connection. But I'm also honored to be the chair for the Colorado. Wow, you guys quieted down quickly. Thank you. That was great. It's probably because that guy up there is scaring you. That's probably what the deal is. But it is great having you here. By the way, feel free to start your meal. No reason to wait on that. But I'm also honored to be the chair of the Colorado Business Roundtable. And I want to officially welcome you to our State of the State event. It's become quite an event over the years here, and it's a great panel we have today for you. Looking forward to it. Hey, to start, let's just get a show of hands for how many roundtable partners and board members we have here today. Just raise your hand. That is fantastic. Let me give you guys a hand. I see many familiar faces. Thank you for your support and your partnership. We are truly grateful for that, and we come together to celebrate the progress and the impact that we have had on the Colorado business community. At the Colorado Business Roundtable, we leverage the expertise and the experience of more than 75 CEOs and senior executives from Colorado's largest employers, representing the sectors of academia, business, community, and government. Together, we tackle the toughest challenges that matter most to our state. One of the main reasons I'm so passionate about the Roundtable is our shared belief that as leaders, we are stronger when we come together. And we tackle our challenges in that manner. This belief drives everything we do, and it's why we at the Colorado Business Roundtable are proud to say that business is indeed a force for good, and probably now more than ever. Now let me take just a moment to reflect on some of our highlights from 2024. We expanded our network to 40 board members and 75 partners, each bringing expertise and passion and vision to the table. We hosted 3 signature events with top-tier speakers, outstanding media partnerships, and strong attendance. We convened 16 policy roundtables and 4 pillar meetings, advancing critical conversations on issues that matter to our state. We held more than a dozen meetings with members of Congress and our governor to address long-term strategic challenges, and we even added in 2 White House engagements, which were phenomenal. 2024 has been a busy and productive year, and if these last few days in Washington, D.C. are anything like what we're going to see in 25, can you imagine how big and how busy 2025 is going to be? It's going to be crazy. So we'd love to have you be a part of our organization if you're not already. So we invite you to join us in ensuring that our vision of a prosperous Colorado for all is a lasting reality. This year's theme for the State of the State is competitiveness, collaboration, and growth. And as you continue enjoying your meal, you'll hear directly from some of our board members and close allies who will expand on these topics. Thanks again for being here today. Thank you for your continued commitment to making Colorado a stronger and more vibrant community. Enjoy your meal, and I think we're going to see a video now.
So Centennial looks forward to partnering with businesses and people like the Colorado Business Roundtable, because that is how we get things done in our city. We partner with the private sector, even in our own public works department. We hire local, we hire businesses, we understand how much business makes our community thrive, and also how much business gives back to our community. You can see it over and over again, the good that comes from the people in the community when they have the opportunity to work with you and work together to achieve great things.
I would say that collaboration is critical, but it also excites me as we come to the table to have conversations about what our needs are. Honest conversations, not pre-narratives, not hidden agendas, but truly are seeking to bring about solutions. I think is where the magic really happens.
I think policymakers could work very closely with businesses to see really good results. If we came to the table together for a solution where they bring their ability to change policy, but ask business owners who really want to do good in our community what we can do to improve things, I think we would see a really great return on our efforts.
There's an incredible attitude for collaboration, and it is somewhat unique in the country. And I've gotten to sit in national conferences and hear Colorado held up as an example for how groups can work together across the academic, business, community, and government sectors. And when I think about that mindset and why it exists, I think here in Colorado we have the frontier spirit of I can go after something, I can do it, I can try something, I can solve a problem, and a recognition that I can't raise the barn all by myself. And so the community comes together to solve those common problems with the aspiration of what can we build? How can we work together to ensure the best possible outcomes for all of us?
Specifically as it relates to Excel, we're seeing significant growth here in Colorado, which is great for our customers, great for communities. That means more jobs, that means more taxes, that means more economic vitality. But as businesses locate here, they expect to have reliable power service. One of the things that we're seeing is tremendous growth with data centers. We're having to build the infrastructure to be able to serve those businesses.
The Colorado Business Roundtable has been an incredible partner. They've been able to advance initiatives that help with our economic competitiveness, including workforce and housing, especially in the workforce arena. It's been great to partner with Debbie and others to make sure that we're really investing in the right programs and matching employers with the needs that they need for their talent.
As far as supporting business and growth and innovation, I think what the state needs to do is to understand that business does know what they're doing. Relieving some of those regulatory burdens allow business to be more innovative, more creative. It allows us to do what we do best. No one is opposed to paying taxes. No one is opposed to following the rules and regulations. But what we want is smart, business-friendly regulations and smart, business-friendly taxes. Because the more we make as a business, the more we give to our community, and there's a flow down that occurs. So we enrich our communities, the more success we have.
We're excited that we've pulled together such tremendous partners from academia, business, community, and government as part of Colorado Business Roundtable, and we invite you to join us.
Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you. Before we jump into some framing of today's event, I want to first give a special thanks to our friends at Verizon, who are one of our sponsors today. Josh, I'm thanking Verizon. Appreciate all that you guys do. Southwest Airlines is also a presenting sponsor. I don't know if our representative is here. And then also Bank of Colorado. I know they're right up front with the table. So appreciate all our presenting sponsors today. A note on Southwest Airlines. We've done this before at our events. If you're willing to post something about the event today, it could be something you learned from the governor, something you're thinking about on political issues, and tag Colorado Business Roundtable, we're going to be giving away a round trip ticket anywhere you want to go on Southwest Airlines. So as it's going to snow tonight, you might be thinking about where you want to go, where there's some additional sunshine. So feel free, any channel on social media is great. I also want to thank our COBRT team and our board of directors, and it sounds like there's a lot of new folks in the room today. I would say we could all probably agree the political framework right now is not boring, right? I've had to Google several new words just this past week to try to make sure I'm up to speed on all the new things happening, especially at the federal level. We put together these questions for the governor to consider in the conversation that we're going to have in a few minutes. Several weeks ago, there's been some changes in that, and I think it'll be really, really interesting to see where the conversation goes. So with all the changing happening this past week, the pace of play, of course, is accelerated in terms of these political issues that affect all of us. So wanted to just give a few framing remarks. As an affiliate of the National Business Roundtable, Colorado Business Roundtable builds those relationships in DC with the White House, Congress, and different staff members in DC, and we'll continue to do that as we're seeing, again, this pace of play accelerate. Public policy challenges are complex, crossing boundaries of local, hyperlocal, national, sometimes international issues. give an example on our big picture lens where we engage with key stakeholders to collaborate and offer solutions. So access to some of these insights that we have through the Business Roundtable are key. In fact, many of you probably saw in the last couple days the freeze on spending, federal spending. We're going to be having a debrief tomorrow on a Zoom call with some folks from DC. If anybody wants an invitation to that Zoom call to hear directly from folks on the ground there on what's happening, feel free to let us know if you didn't already get that invite. And Dave made it really clear, our framework is that business is a force for good. It doesn't mean business is perfect. That's why we do have regulatory framework, but overall, business is a force for good, and we stand with the business leaders that are in the crowd today. You not only create products and services that are valuable for our community, you create pathways of opportunity for your employees. That's just the bare minimum. And then thinking about what you do for our tax revenue as a state and also giving back in philanthropic ways. So we appreciate all the employers in the room that are working hard every day to be successful, and we stand with you on that. So today we are trying to simplify. There's so many topics that we could be covering. I think about immigration, the USMCA reauthorization, as I see my friend Sylvain, the General Counsel of Canada. Thank you for coming, Sylvain. So many issues that you think, okay, there's a global issue, it's a federal issue. The truth is it becomes a state issue when these issues are addressed, and we're all in this together. But for today's purposes, we're going to simplify. And we're going to talk about Colorado's priorities, the governor's priorities, and how it impacts business. We've separated into three main categories, and you got a little bit of that from the video. The first one is competitiveness. We compete with other states, it's no surprise. As you all are deciding where you want to grow, where you want to spend capital, you're thinking about other states. As I have calls with other Business Roundtable presidents around the country, sometimes something will come up that maybe Colorado put into place. And my colleagues from Tennessee or Florida are just sort of smiling at me saying, that's great, Debbie. Then we might see more business growth in our states as well. So we have to think about competitiveness. I'm pleased that we have a partnership with Common Sense Institute, and Kelly Caulfield is going to share some remarks after the panel on some of the work they've done on their competitiveness report. And there's some great news as a state. How many of you know we're one of the healthiest states in the United States, right? That's wonderful. A lot of people come to Colorado because of our healthy prioritization. Our GDP continues to grow. We're still seeing folks move to Colorado, even though the pace has slowed. It's great news for Colorado and some of our ecosystems that are really driving that. But we also have other challenges. We've dropped in Best State for Business ranking, and that's something we need to consider when we think about public policy. And we also have some challenges on cost of doing business, which probably comes to no surprise to those of you in the room today. The second topic for today, collaboration. I want to say, how many of you went to the stock show this past January? Okay, isn't that fun? I think what we hear time and time again, especially when we're out around the country, is that Colorado, because of our Midwestern hospitality and Western independence, has grown a strong reputation for being great collaborators across various sectors. We see this in public-private partnerships, we see it in a thriving startup ecosystem, and even in cross-sector collaboration between academia and business. And also want to thank our Colorado nonprofit sector, great collaborators with government and with business to address social issues such as housing and affordability. The final topic is growth, and I touched on this briefly about our population increasing, approximately 180,000 residents in the past 4 years, reflecting a cumulative growth of about 3.2%. The growth has been driven by natural increases and some net migration, but we've seen a slowing in that growth. So many of you, as you're thinking about your business challenges, I think about the academic challenges, how do we make sure we're on top of those issues as the growth is potentially slowing? So we're looking forward to our panel asking questions about that framework, competitiveness, collaboration, and growth. And it'll be interesting to see where the conversation takes us in light of the political framework that we're in today. So a lot of swirling questions around that. So please continue to enjoy your meal, get to know someone at your table. We have the governor coming in a few minutes, and once he arrives in about 10 minutes or so, we'll start the panel. So enjoy the time at your table. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the panel first and have them come up on stage, and then we'll introduce the governor for some brief remarks before we start the interactive part of today's conversation. Thanks, everyone. Sounds like the tables, you had some good conversation. How many of you saw that the federal freeze was just rescinded? So anyway, there's like breaking news. Maybe it was our comments, that we already had. So want to introduce the folks that are going to be part of the conversation today. First, we'll start with Tim Johnson. Tim leads Pinnacle Assurance's people-centered initiatives as Chief Human Resources Officer and Vice President of Employee Services. With decades of experience as a senior HR leader in companies like PepsiCo and Dell, Tim oversees Pinnacle's nationally acclaimed work-based apprenticeship program and has driven successful strategies in organizational design and talent development, earning Pinnacle's consistent recognition as a top workplace. Mary Zappone became CEO of Sundyne in 2021, leading the world's top provider of low-flow, high-head pumps and compressors for the energy, chemical, petrochemical, and industrial markets. With over 25 years of senior management experience across diverse industries, including roles at Exxon, Alcoa, and GE, Mary is a proven leader in driving growth and innovation while mentoring women and girls in STEM. Sean Ostuff leads Bank of Colorado and has overseen its growth from 8 locations to more than 50, with assets exceeding $6.5 billion across Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. With extensive experience in banking, lending, and portfolio management, Sean is dedicated to community-focused banking and local decision-making, while also serving on several business and community boards. And finally, we're pleased to welcome Julie Smith. She leads Verizon's government and community affairs efforts across the mountain, plains, and southern United States, managing relationships with local government and community leaders. With a background in both public service and media, including working in Congress, also for Georgia Governor Sonny Perdue, and as a producer for Fox News, Julie also serves on several boards and advocates for the telecom industry. And then we also have back as our moderator, veteran political reporter and award-winning journalist Luigi Del Porto, serves as editor of the Denver Gazette and Colorado Politics. He was previously the publisher and editor of Arizona Capital Times, a Phoenix-based media company that covers public policy and politics. A native of the Philippines, Del Porto cut his journalistic teeth covering crime in the streets of Metro Manila and pursued stories about labor, elections, and national security. So Luigi, we're easy here, right, with your background. And let's go ahead and have the panelists come on up, and then I'll introduce the governor. Okay. All right, thank you. Perfect. Okay, sounds good. We're very pleased that Governor Polis makes time for this event each year. As I mentioned, it's a very unique format where he'll give some brief remarks about his state of the state priorities. And Governor, we were just talking about how politics is very boring in today's world. We have to catch our Twitter feed every 10 minutes to at least see what's happening at the federal level. But it impacts Colorado. So we're pleased to be able to have the time today to collaborate and have this conversation. Governor Jared Polis is an entrepreneur, education leader, and public servant who launched several successful companies, including one from his college dorm room, before dedicating himself to expanding opportunities for Coloradans. He founded schools for at-risk students and immigrants, created nonprofits to support veterans and entrepreneurs, and served on the State Board of Education and in Colorado's state legislature. As governor, Jared Polis continues to focus on strengthening Colorado's economy, expanding access to education and healthcare, and preserving the Colorado way of life. Please join me in welcoming Governor Jared Polis.
Good to see you all. We have a great state, and I know that the business community working together can make us an even more amazing place for everybody. Thank you, Debbie. Colorado Business Roundtable. I think there's some elected officials with us here. I understand Centennial Mayor Stephanie Pico, City Council members from Centennial and Littleton. Thank you. Are there any state legislators here? I think they're over there busy in their building this time of year. Earlier this month, I delivered my 7th State of the State address, really talking about my vision for a safer, more affordable, more livable, prosperous Colorado, the steps we need to take to get there, where people can reach their potential and work hard and get ahead. And I'm proud to share some aspects of that with you today. That was the 50-minute version, so I figured you deserve more, so a 2-hour version for you all today. Sorry, the panel won't have time for any questions afterwards. As business leaders, you know that with hard work, innovation, and collaboration, we can deliver real results for our state. In Colorado, good enough is not good enough. And to improve our standard of living, we want to keep communities clean and safe, increase access to housing, especially near job centers that people can afford, empower our workforce with the skills and knowledge that they need to power our future. Of course, to have a thriving business ecosystem, we need housing that people can afford so workers can live close to job opportunities and businesses can fill their in-demand jobs. We have from our Office of Economic Development and International Trade, Eve Lieberman is with us. Thank you, Eve. And, you know, as we recruit companies to come to Colorado, one of the biggest challenges we face, we're competitive in, of course, many areas, but one of them is housing costs too much. We hear that time and time again. And, of course, here in the Denver metro area, $600,000 average home price. Colorado Springs metro area, about $480,000 home price. And that, at a certain level, can become a competitive disadvantage. And so we want to remove barriers that prevent housing from being built. First of all, we did a strong bipartisan property tax bill that cut residential property taxes and commercial property taxes, also capped increases going forward. But we've also taken steps to give Coloradans the freedom to build accessory dwelling units on their property, to have more multifamily zoning near transit, to get rid of government-imposed parking requirements above and beyond what the market wants or needs, and essentially trying to focus on ways we can remove those barriers that have been put in the way of housing. Housing, like anything, the price of housing is a function of supply and demand. It's great that demand is high. People want to live in Colorado, job market strong, but supply has been artificially constrained, which is why the costs have gone up. So in Colorado, we want to say yes to more housing, yes to unlocking prosperity, and yes to opportunity for Coloradans in every budget. So we have several items. This is continual work now. This is our 3rd year on this to remove additional barriers. This year, we want to streamline the process for modular housing options to build faster and at lower cost. Yesterday, I was at a development here in Denver, modular housing, delivered in about half the time frame, about 20% lower cost. We want to streamline the process for that across our state. We want to reform construction defects law so that condos can be built, great starter homes, 200s, 300,000s in metro areas so people can build equity, maybe eventually be able to afford that $600,000 home. Very important to build condos. The condo construction is slowed to a near halt in our state. We also want to help faith-based and educational partners use land they had to build housing with our Yes in God's Backyard initiative, as well as smart stair reform that enables better and more thoughtful urban design around housing in our metropolitan centers. So we, in addition to the cost of housing itself, we're also very concerned with the homeowners insurance market. You've probably all seen the increases in your own homeowners insurance or your HOA's homeowners insurance over the last few years. That's a function of risk, of climate, of fire, of hail. Hail and fire are the two that drive that, claims that have been made. And we are looking at how we can better prepare and make sure our insurance market is solid, that people have access to insurance, that we have a functional market of insurance, given the changing environment and risks and claims. A big part of how we grow is also do it in a way that doesn't increase traffic congestion or worsen our air quality. And what does that mean? We want housing near job centers, and then we also want thoughtful access to transit, including front range passenger rail, the ski train to Winter Park. And the Winter Park Express now runs 5 days a week already. We're looking to full service between Denver and Granby in 2026, and then on to Craig. And we also took steps working with the oil and gas industry and environmentalists to boost transit funding and moving Colorado from 42nd in the nation for transit funding to 23rd. And we'll be seeing the benefits of that in the years ahead. Our housing and transit goals very much go hand in hand. More and better and more affordable transit options, housing close to job centers and transit hubs, saving money, less pollution, less congestion. Congestion is time and money lost for workers and for businesses. We also know that keeping people and property safe is a key piece of the puzzle to make sure that our state can thrive. 3 years ago, I established a goal of making Colorado one of the 10 safest states. I'm glad to report we are well on our way. Property crimes between 23 and 24 are down 15%. It's 20,000 fewer property crimes, 9% fewer homicides. And we had a particular focus on automobile theft, and we now have a 26% decrease in automobile theft. That's 8,000 fewer car thefts. But there's a lot more work ahead. And with the boost from the voters and implementing Proposition 130, which funds local law enforcement, which we're working on implementing, along with tougher laws, we fully expect that we can do more to keep people and property and businesses safer in the state of Colorado. We also know that a key to our success and your success in the business sector is human capital. It's our education, it's our workforce. We're now in the second year of universal preschool, saving families over $6,000, also empowering parents to re-enter the workforce sooner if they choose, giving kids the best start. We also are focused on the other end of education and making sure that kids are graduating high school with the skills they need to have good jobs through apprenticeships, through dual and concurrent enrollment, through certification programs. And we also know that despite these great examples across our state, there are also education deserts, as Senator Coleman calls them. In Colorado, there's areas of our state where 90% of students, think 22 in a class of 25, are behind grade level in math and reading. And that's unacceptable, and we need to provide more quality choices for parents, especially when they're in areas where their kids are falling further and further behind. I'm also proud to elevate the focus on skills, not just in Colorado, but nationally. As chair of the National Governors Association, my chair's initiative is Let's Get Ready, educating all Americans for success. It's really about better measuring outcomes from our schools to make sure that the work we're doing prepares students for success in their careers, in the economy, in life, how we can best ensure learners develop the skills and talents they need to succeed in today's and tomorrow's job market. Our mission is to learn how to better measure success so we can expand and scale the many things that we see working and, of course, change the things that aren't. That's one of the ways I'm partnering with governors, Democratic and Republican governors across the country, to tackle the challenges and embrace the opportunities that can truly unify us as a nation. So we have a lot to do in the months ahead. I'm optimistic that we will be able to work together to deliver real results for Coloradans as business and community leaders on housing, on public safety, on workforce, on education. Your voice is so critical. And that's why I'm honored to speak with you today. We look forward to partnering with you on all these important initiatives going forward, and I look forward to having a discussion with your panel. Thank you. Where do you want me? Okay.
Governor, thank you for that. You know, all I really want to talk about are wolves and Venezuelan gang in Aurora, but Debbie said we have more important stuff to actually talk about. So let's do that. I do have a request to the governor. Sir, short and outrageous comments, okay? You are chair of the National Governors Association. You attended President Trump's inauguration earlier this year. You've always talked about and championed, this great idea of bipartisanship. And in your State of the State address, you emphasized working with anyone when it's good for Colorado and opposing anyone when it is not. How does this approach shape your decisions at the state capitol? And what I really want to know is which bills are going to get vetoed this year? Well, look, I mean, I think my approach has been consistent from the start. Whether
I was governor when President Trump was president before, President Biden, President Trump. Any administration in Washington, we always are going to work with where we can to advance our interests as a state, to make Colorado safer and more affordable. Also, never afraid to take on anybody if their policies are bad for Colorado. It's similar with the legislature, but it's also different because there's a lot more negotiations with the legislature. And there's 500 bills or so, there always are. And most make it, some don't, many get changed. Sometimes they make changes that get me to the place where I can live with it. Other times they don't, and they get vetoed. So it's hard to predict anything, Luigi, but there's a lot of bills in motion. But I can certainly tell you that the voice of the business community is absolutely critical on all of the issues that you care about. So please take the time to go testify, to establish relationships with your legislators, to invite them out to your company for a town hall. Engage, and whether you are boosting and supporting their ideas or opposing bad ideas, that's a key part of the process.
Thank you, Governor. I'm always happy to get a heads up when you're going to veto a bill, so please do that. Tim, you have a question for the governor?
Yes, if you could reflect on your time as governor, what are you most proud of? And I also would love to hear, what do you see of the priorities you have? What would you say is your top 1 or 2 priorities going forward?
Well, I think one of the biggest accomplishments is one of the reasons I ran for governor. It was to have preschool and kindergarten for every kid. We only had half-day kindergarten. Parents had to pay for full day. We had parents had to pay for preschool, except for very low income. And we got, in my first year, full-day kindergarten done. That saved about $400 a month for parents. And then we went to the ballot. Preschool passed with 67%. Red counties, blue counties, rural, urban. People said, yeah, kids ought to be able to go to preschool. Got that done. We're in the second year of universal preschool. That saves families about $6,100 a year and prepares students for success. In terms of what we're working on now, and I'd say we're kind of in the early to mid stages of this work, it's really about kind of the housing and how we thrive as a community, like housing, transit, job centers, like how we grow without losing what makes Colorado special, right? Without growing further out, meaning we're using more water, we're getting rid of agricultural lands, we're more traffic on the roads. How do we have a smart growth here where we can do it in a way where it doesn't ruin what makes Colorado special? And so that's kind of the work when we talk about housing and transit and transportation. That's what that means, and it's work that will continue beyond my governorship, but we've gotten some of the pieces in place, and we hope to get the rest of them in place over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Governor. I believe, Sean, you have a pretty closely related question.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Governor Polis. We appreciate your interest in the business community and supporting business for the force of good. Along the lines of affordable housing, I wanted to play off some of your remarks earlier. It seems the intersection of government policy and banking is at a critical point. And obviously, affordable housing is important to us as we serve over 45 markets across the state of Colorado, and it's important for many of the markets we serve. My question to you is, how can we collaborate better with government and figure out better sources for funding and making affordable housing more attractive to developers, investors, et cetera, to bring that affordable housing to these markets that are so important?
Well, the single largest piece out of our control as a state, and that's interest rates, out of your control as well.
Yeah, we don't have any
so, there's, we can lob things at Washington and say, balance the budget and don't do, things you can't afford and have a reasonable monetary policy. But we don't. So, whatever, at any given interest rate, of course, we have the ability to direct capital to buy it down for affordable projects or other projects. So again, thanks to the voters, proposition has allowed us to do more in that housing space, mixed income level developments with some market and some that are more affordable. But yeah, we're all subject to interest rates of where they're at, and we've been focused on removing the barriers to prevent housing from being built in the first place.
You bet. I was headed down the path of perhaps even more tax credits or incentives to promote affordable housing, and I know you're working hard on that, so thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's talk about workforce development and higher education funding. How many of you know how much is the state budget deficit this year? Any? Yep. What's the number? Yeah. $1 billion.
Zero. We have balanced budget every year.
That's right.
We have a required balanced
Zero.
budget. So.
It's anywhere between 700 million and $1 billion, depending on who you ask. But that's, you have a lot of worried legislators at the state capitol. And we know that there are, our current higher education systems are lagging behind what we see in other states, for example. Business leaders here on the panel have questions for you on this topic. Mary?
Thank you for being here, Governor. What I wanted to ask about is how can the government leaders and business leaders better collaborate to support the students to be ready to succeed in the workplace?
Sorry, primary school or
More
you
like
do
the
college
level
college
and then
college?
heading into the
And by the way,
workforce.
so on the budget, we have a balanced budget requirement every year. So we submitted our balanced budget. The Joint Budget Committee's looking at that. They will take some ideas and they will have slightly other ones, but they will also have to produce a balanced budget. They're not allowed to produce a budget with a $700 billion deficit. So we presented a balanced budget, and I'm confident they will too, and they'll probably take many of the things we presented, and they'll probably add in a few of their own and change things as their prerogative. I was in a public community college on Friday. The state helped expand the number of welding booths, and they now have over 300 high school and college students in their welding program. It's an example, by the way, of a school district that's 4 days a week. So on the 5th day, most of the high schoolers are able to be in these vocational and community college programs and other programs across the district. So seniors are able to graduate concurrently with their diploma and a welding certificate, as an example. We've also made community college in the first years of college essentially free if you are low and low middle income. So if you can't afford it, community college costs $3,500 a year if you're taking a full load. And so if you're making now, $60,000, $70,000, that is free to you now. Which is very important in breaking down that barrier so people can get the skills they need. Some might be taking it part-time, while they're working in the evenings, that sort of thing. And then working to align the work of not just our 13 community colleges, 15, including the 2 that aren't part of the state system, and the high schools who are doing vocational work with the actual needs of the private sector. And that's where you all come in, partnering with community colleges, our offices, to make sure that the degrees that people are getting and the certificates that people are getting are directly related to the workforce need that you have and that you expect to have in the months and years ahead.
Thank you.
Tim?
Yes, in your opening remarks, you referenced initiative through the Governors Association that you're driving around, Let's Get Ready. Can you elaborate on that and also speak on what the business community can do to support that?
So, we look at, and today, by the way, the big news is the NAEP scores came out. That's the national test that kids take across every state. So we have a way of benchmarking. Remember, our state tests are aligned with our state standards. We look at those every year. The NAEP we look at every other year. But those are really tests that look at the academic content areas, math, reading, science. These are very important. And we certainly want kids, and we need to do a better job. And there's some encouraging data in there, improving results in a number of areas for Colorado. When you dig down, and areas that we still need to work on, unacceptable. But the other part of that is that being able to read and do math alone doesn't necessarily meet your higher prepare the kids for success. So we're really looking at what other indications of success. I don't know if I need a new microphone. What else should we be measuring and looking at in terms of skills, certifications? Did you successfully complete an apprenticeship? Did you get a credential in a key area that allows you to get a good job? So we want to look at more than just those areas. And of course, even for the kids that are going on to college, we want to look at if there's a need for remediation, how do we make sure they take 3 or 4 years instead of 5 or 6 years to graduate if it's a full bachelor's degree. So we want to build a larger basket of outcomes-based accountability, really looking to make sure that we are doing the right thing in our schools.
Governor, thank you for that. I do have an immigration question for you. In your State of the State address, you've highlighted the importance of securing borders and tackling illegal activity, creating the legal pathway to citizenship for our dreamers and others who are, in fact, contributing to our state's success. I do want to ask you, do you think the idea of a comprehensive immigration reform is possible this year, over the next 4 years?
Well, it's a better question to our congressional friends, right? Hopefully you'll have members of our congressional delegation visit. I sure hope so. It's been elusive for our country since, I believe, 1984 was the last one, and it doesn't get better by itself. It just creates all sorts of problems for people, for businesses, for our country. And it's long overdue. So we have to remain ever hopeful. I will continue to push for it. And, I think there's a lot of things that Democrats and Republicans start off agreeing on. I mean, I think we generally agree that there should be some way that dreamers and people who grew up here should be able to, stay here to work. People that come to our colleges and universities that get degrees should not be forced to compete with us in other countries. We should let them help make America stronger and better here. Border security. Again, it's one that I would certainly urge Congress to take up because it's more needed now than ever, and it would be a great potential benefit for our nation.
Thank you, Governor. Let's talk about broadband and technology innovation. Last time you were here a year ago, we talked about the progress that we've made over the last 200 years, but just the amount of the leaps that we've seen just over the last, 5-10 years has been incredible. We can now have, we now have Starlink, for example, and the most remote areas of the earth can now have access to TikTok and get addicted over there. I'm kidding. But you know what I'm talking about. Julie, I think you got a question for the governor.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, is it still morning? Governor, thanks for being with us. This is a really specific pressing issue for our industry, and it's really a safety and crime issue. And in the telecommunications industry, the theft of critical infrastructure components such as copper poses an imminent safety threat when it takes our network down because of the theft. How do you plan to address safety concerns such as these, and do you support measures such as maybe targeted increases in penalties to address the theft and vandalism of this critical infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the success of increases in penalties as an example around car thefts. I think that's part of the reason we saw such a huge reduction in car thefts. The second part was we funded prosecution, supported especially some of our smaller DA's offices to be able to go after that. So we're very supportive of that, where you can draw the link between, hey, here's a crime that is maybe more than a normal property crime because of its impact, and how can we appropriately investigate and deter people from doing that. So we look forward to engaging with the industry about how we can reduce all kinds of theft, but in particular copper theft and theft that drives cost increases in prices that are passed along to Colorado consumers. We'd love to work with you to tackle.
Governor, did I just hear you say that you're open to legislation that would increase the penalty for copper theft in particular?
Sure. This year, I know one that we have in there is one that would increase the penalty for stolen guns. Used in a majority of crimes, use guns that were illegally acquired. Currently, gun theft is treated like property. So if it's under a $2,000 gun, as most guns are, it's not a felony. So it shouldn't be related to it shouldn't be related to the value of the gun. That's similar to what we did for cars. I don't know exactly what the model you're looking at for copper wire theft would be, but we'd be happy to certainly explore with you how we can deter crime in this area.
So Julie, you got a couple months to get a bill introduced, get it to the governor's office.
We're working on it, and apparently it affects the oil and gas industry as well. So it's a pretty significant issue for the industry.
Sean, you got a question for the governor?
Yes, you bet. It's along the lines of artificial intelligence. Last year, Colorado passed the nation's first AI legislation. As noted in your signing letter, the legislation has structural gaps that must be addressed. How does Colorado move forward as a technology hub while protecting consumer protections and creating a healthy business environment to attract businesses to come and do business in Colorado?
Well, this is one, Luigi asked about immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform at national level. Only Congress can do that. We wish we could do that as a state. And by the way, in some models of that, if they empower states to give, work permits, Utah's already authorized that. We'd be happy to take a look at that. That's one possible incarnation of it, is engaging states. With regard to AI, it needs to be national. The worst possible scenario is you have 50 different compliance regimes across 50 different states. That's a prescription for making America a laggard in AI rather than a leader. So what Congress needs to do, and I'm happy to tell this to them, and probably actions like Colorado and other states are hopefully raising the need and elevating the need for them to do that. They absolutely need to preempt law in this area and create a sensible way of balancing the interest that promotes innovation and inspires consumer confidence.
Governor, so you don't want a patchwork of 50 laws that has all kinds of permutations? No, that was a joke.
That's right.
That's fine. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Julie, you got another question on broadband deployment.
Yes, and Governor, it's clear that you've made it a priority for Colorado to be a great place to do business, and thank you for that. And in terms of broadband deployment, we focus on cost, speed, and predictability when we're deploying the networks. And so, unfortunately, sometimes companies are facing delays in permits at the local government level. They don't always follow timelines that we're hoping that they follow. Do you support, by chance, shot clock style requirements at the state level for permit approvals to give predictability to the telecom community in order to expedite broadband deployment across the state?
We love shot clock for all things. We tried to get some in our housing stuff. Nothing yet has that, but we wanted to say, you can't sit on an application for housing for, more than 90 days and you got to move it and all that. So we're absolutely for transmission, that's another key area for broadband. We would love that, again, let the local governments do their work, but give them a reasonable time limit to get it done.
I'm curious also, just a quick follow-up, is there anything from your perspective that you feel like our industry should be doing to better, expedite deployment across the state from a broadband perspective? I know that's a big priority for you.
Obviously we want to make sure that the federal funding sources for that are not mysteriously shut down or locked off or stopped. So that's BEAD in this case, the main one. I'd say that's the big one. We want to make sure that continues. We welcome anything around permitting or siting for sure. We have been trying to lean into, working with, for instance, our own right-of-ways through CDOT to facilitate broadband where we can, and happy to do anything else we can additional there, and that's, a small part of it, but a lot of it involves private property as well, so we're happy to help how we can.
Governor, remind me.
Our goal, by the way, is we were going to be over 99% high-speed access. I believe 26 is our year. I think it was 26 will be 99% is our goal and where we expect to be.
There's about, $830 million in federal grant for broadband funding in the state, right? You got to spend that quickly before the next funding freeze. Yeah. I know how you feel.
Well, and also, they're looking at potential clawbacks and things like that. So we're very worried about all those different investments that had been announced, including BEAD.
It's been hard to keep up the last 2 days, I tell you that. Let's talk about economic development. Mary, you got a question for the governor?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what can that means government leaders and business leaders do to encourage more advanced manufacturing in Colorado?
Well, certainly, that's one of the areas we want to make sure that through our college and community college system, we also have, by the way, Dr. Janine Davidson is here from Metro, that we align with and provide people with the skills needed for success in advanced manufacturing. That's one. We also have to deal with siting. Obviously, making sure that we're competitive in a wide variety of areas is absolutely key. Again, for any employment-intensive endeavor, housing is critical, especially for those, for middle class and advanced manufacturing jobs. It's important people are able to live in a quality life on a salary of whether it's $60,000 or $90,000 or whatever it is. we need to be a market that is upwardly mobile and supports people in that way. We are very aggressive in courting advanced manufacturing jobs to Colorado with Eve Lieberman and OEdit. A lot of great wins over the last few years, and we'll look forward to partnering with you to help attract even more to our state.
And Sean?
Yeah, thank you. Businesses across Colorado applauded your efforts when you repealed years of antiquated and outdated regulations. What lessons can Colorado learn from jurisdictions that have also successfully reduced regulation that continues to add cost of doing business, et cetera?
Yeah, I encourage every jurisdiction in our state to do this. In our case, in terms of what I had authority over, it's executive orders. We found 208 old executive orders, some dating back to the 1920s, but many of them my immediate predecessors as governor, and even some of them were mine. And we said we don't need these, and we got rid of them. We hope that the legislature does something similar with laws. So we want to work with them to remove outdated and unneeded laws and regulations that are in statute. But you're right, that just scratches the bucket, because you're also interested in cities and counties, right? So I mean, when people complain to me about something, they say, I can't get my restaurant license or whatever it is. It's not usually the state. I make sure it's not the state. There's a little piece we do on the liquor license. We turn that around in, now down to 30 days. But a lot of that is the local piece. And so we need similar measures by our mayors, by our commissioners, to really look at the different rules and regs they have and how can they streamline them to meet their goals without being a detriment to business development.
The state legislature would have to wade through between 160,000 and 200,000 regulations. That's what the chamber report said.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll necessarily get through them all in 1 year, but they should begin that work. They should begin that work for sure.
We're almost out of time, but there is legislation that I think a lot of business leaders here are worried about, and that's the attempt to undo the K provision of the Labor Peace Act. I do want to ask you, because in your State of the State address, you kind of intimated you're going to veto this bill. So are you going to veto this bill if it arrives at your desk?
Well, I think what's important as a business community is that you engage and see if there's a way to extend the stability that we've had, 81 years of stability. We were able to help bring together environmentalists in the oil and gas industry together around compromise that produced certainty for our businesses and help fund transit. We're able to bring together the trial lawyers and the doctors and hospitals around medical malpractice caps and create some stability. So the best outcome from the state would be one that has buy-in from business and labor, and if it makes changes to what's worked well for 81 years and it's fair for business and fair for workers, we hope that can be something that lasts for another 81 years.
That sure sounds like a veto to me. Governor, you don't always see eye to eye with Trump administration, and there are occasions when you've said, yeah, it sounds like a good plan, let's move forward. And I do want to ask you what you look forward to under a Trump administration.
Well, obviously, if the work at DOGE succeeds and they're able to reduce deficits and make the federal government more efficient, that would be wonderful. I'm not holding my breath. It's a very daunting task. When I was in Congress, I supported a balanced budget amendment that would have required the federal government balance their budget. I wish them all success, but that would be a wonderful outcome because that has positive ramifications, including downward pressure on interest rates as an example if there's fiscal responsibility at the federal level. So wish them well. Hopefully they'll succeed in that.
And with that, we are out of time. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists here. Very, very quick show of hands. Who among you are subscribers to Colorado Politics? That's great, that's great. Not so great. What about the Denver Gazette? You know that my bonus depends on you subscribing, right? I'm gonna chase you after. At this juncture, I want to introduce Kelly Caulfield, who is the executive director of the Common Sense Institute, a nonpartisan research organization dedicated to protecting and promoting Colorado's economy. CSI conducts rigorous fiscal and economic research to ensure Coloradans are informed on policies that impact the state's economic vitality, and individual opportunity. Kelly?
Thank you, Governor, and thank you to our panelists. Nice to see you all. I think you all can go ahead and exit the stage so you don't have to sit here in front of everyone. Hi, everyone. My name's Kelly Caulfield. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today. See a lot of friendly faces and really appreciate our partnership with COBRT to be here. For those who don't know, the Common Sense Institute is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to Colorado's economy. We're here to protect it and promote it. And I'm excited to say that Common Sense Institute turns 15 this year. You know, we've been around for a little while, we're proud of that. And common sense is spreading across the country. I love saying that. We've been replicated in 3 other states. Wanted to make sure you all knew that. Common Sense Arizona launched over 2 years ago, and there's a Common Sense Iowa and a Common Sense Oregon. So we're a family of 4 now. But my focus today is Colorado. Earlier this month, we unveiled our 2025 Free Enterprise Competitiveness Report. And this is where we can really track ourselves against all the other states. We're all competitive. Many of you work for multi-state employers. This data is really important, and it can be found on our website, commonsenseinstituteco.org. That is a mouthful. Feel free to just Google Common Sense Institute. I want to start with something positive. In looking at economic trends, the state's economic performance, according to our Economist Index, shows that the state has remained strong. Looking at economic factors since 2011, we're actually currently second. This is good news, of course, but we're also seeing some economic momentum moving in the wrong direction relative, again, to other states. We're always comparing ourselves to the other states. We're seeing slower job creation, lower relative growth in the labor force participation rate of those between 18 and 64, and a slight increase in poverty rates following 2020. And that's leading to some diminished economic momentum. We also measured our state's overall alignment with free enterprise. Bad news here, we've also declined. We have declined 11 spots since 2011. Much of Common Sense's research, we try not to be knee-jerk. We look over 15, 20-year periods. So a lot of the data I'm presenting is really showing long-term trends, which I think is really important in policy. Colorado was ranked 15th in 2011 in terms of our free enterprise alignment, and we are now 26th in 2023. For our next slide, hopefully you guys can see those. I think the natural question is, what is bringing us down? 4 factors in particular are bringing us down: housing, crime, education, and our state budget. So more specifically, I don't like to report bad news. I've been told recently I'm just sharing bad news, which I hope is not true. There's some positives here too, but it's just the facts, I promise. We are dead last for housing. We are 50th, and we heard that a lot in our panel. There's a lot of good conversations happening in our state, and I appreciate the governor's focus on housing. The Home Buyers Misery Index, which is an index Common Sense economists created to better understand housing supply and demand, it increased in every single county in Colorado in 2023 as mortgage rates increased and housing prices remained out of reach for most Coloradans. Crime and public safety. Since 2011, Colorado's rank relative to our other states moved from 29th to 43rd. So by our measures, we're very far from being a top 10 state. You might ask why. That is due to a high overall crime rate and a high homelessness rate. We also track overdoses and police officers per capita. In terms of education, there was some good news in the fact that standardized test scores have returned here in Colorado to and even slightly surpassed our pre-pandemic levels. But achievement gaps, as you heard the governor say, the nation's report card was issued today, and again, our historical data is showing we still are not doing well from our achievement gap perspective and low proficiency rates relative to other states, despite increased funding. Our 4th and 8th grade math scores in particular hold us down when you compare ourselves to other states. In terms of state budget competitiveness, we rank almost last. We are 43rd, and there are two big drivers explaining that decline in our competitiveness. One, it's an outsized share of employment is from the government sector instead of the private sector. Our jobs report that we just issued yesterday showed that for the first time, Colorado's public sector employment hit 500,000, 500,000. That's not just state employees. That is a larger number showing federal, state, and local employees. So that's the first time we've hit such a high number, 500,000. Two, the state's growing reliance on fees also impacts our competitiveness. The state has seen a 3,000% increase in fees since 1996. This is not a typo, 3,000% increase. The share of state spending that is exempt from TABOR has almost doubled since 96. This matters because it drives our effective tax burdens higher than one might think. Giving a higher tax burden without giving Coloradans a say in the process, far beyond the levels that they'd likely approve on the ballot, as we all know is our right here in the great state of Colorado. We wanted to better understand what that really meant, this big increase in fees. How do I, explain a 3,000% increase? So we actually aggregated what would it mean to our income tax if all of the fees were instead transferred as an income tax. If that happened and we took higher education out because the state does treat tuition as a fee, so we felt like that was unfair. So if you take out higher ed tuition, you would see an income tax closer to 7.7%. That's a 75% increase over our current income tax, which is 4.4. These trends matter. Our economic health will dictate the future of business opportunities, attracting more talent, attracting more businesses, more employees to our great state. And it's important just for the general peace of mind around the family household as we're all trying to balance our own budgets. Please share our data and our reports, commonsenseinstituteco.org. Oh good, my slides are on that side. I'm just looking over here, I'm like, my slides aren't here. That's funny, good. So commonsenseinstituteco.org is our site. The more that you all are able to internalize this data, share it with your teams, share it with your employees, your boards, across the many states, especially if you're in our other 3 states, please share our data, and I think that's the way we get back on track. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd like to invite Dr. Janine Davidson, the president of MSU, to come to the stage. Thank you.
Wow, what a great turnout. People are still here. This is awesome. When I get asked to be the closing speaker, you're like, is there going to be anybody left? So great. So this has been an incredible, informative, engaging event. I want to say thank you to Debbie for all you do for our state. Kelly, you can't solve problems if you can't see them. So thank you for the work that you do. We've heard some really thought-provoking discussion and valuable insight on the critical issues that are shaping Colorado. So a heartfelt thank you to the panelists. You guys did a great job with the governor. Thank you to the governor who's gone, I think, but his folks are still here. So it's really great to hear from him right from the horse's mouth. So I am Janine Davidson. I'm the president of Metropolitan State University of Denver. I'm the proud president there. I'm also a proud board member of Colorado Business Roundtable. And for those of you who don't know, although I think everybody should know, MSU Denver is the third largest public university, third largest university in the great state of Colorado. And over 95% of our students are from Colorado. Most of them stay in Colorado. Most of them work for some of you all. 58% of our students are first generation in their family to go to college. Something we're really, really proud of. That's why we call it, thank you. So it's why we call MSU Denver the engine room for the American dream. But of course, we can't do it without you. We are focused like a laser on closing the education gaps in our state and critically preparing Coloradans for a 21st century workforce. And again, we do that in partnership with all of you. Partnership and collaboration are the keys to to our shared success in the state. You heard a lot about that today. Today's dialogue really reaffirms my belief that, Colorado thrives when we really come together across our sectors, across actors, industries, across communities, public, private, to solve these problems. And focusing on competitiveness, like you heard today, I think is a really important thing. Sliding in all of those rankings is something we should all be paying attention to. And I look at my part of that role, or my part of that task, is about the workforce, because at the end of the day, it's about our people, and if we're not investing in our people, we're not investing in your employees, our workforce, and the future of Colorado. So as leaders, I really think all of us, it's our collective responsibility to drive that meaningful change in our state. This roundtable is a unique space where diverse opinions, diverse voices can come together, get a shared understanding of the problems in our state, the economic issues like workforce, the challenges and the opportunities like innovation and more, all to ensure that we have a prosperous Colorado going forward. So if you're inspired by what you've heard today, I encourage you to dive deep into this incredible community. Reach out to Debbie Brown, the one and only, or any of our board members, and explore how you can contribute your expertise and perspective to the Colorado Business Roundtable. So thank you all for being a part of the event today, and for your commitment to making Colorado the greatest state in the nation. Together we really can shape a prosperous future. Thank you all.